What's up, everyone? I'm going to run down this weekend's games. It's week 2 of the NFL 2019, and therefore it is also week 2 of the 2019 fantasy football season. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of the games this coming weekend and any fantasy implications that are going on in those games. I did film a video in my car the night before on my way home with some thoughts that I had about week 1, but it came out really bad. The lighting was bad. It was sun was setting, so by the end of the video it was basically pitch black in the car, and I don't know. I don't think you guys really want to see where I don't think you guys want to see me while you're driving anyway, so I'm going to play a little bit of Madden instead. I think that's a better sort of visual for you guys to get an idea of, to just play along with the football thing. Anyway, Thursday night, that is today. It is the 12th, September 12th today. Thursday night game tonight is the Bucs and the Panthers. I really think that a lot of fantasy implications are going to happen in this game. People probably drafted a whole bunch of players from these teams, and I'm really excited, specifically about Curtis Samuel. He's been my guy all off season, and he didn't really do anything this past weekend. But the whole Carolina team had trouble, with the exception of Christian McCaffrey, who never seems to have any trouble, by the way. Curtis Samuel, he's my guy. I think he has a big game in this game. The Bucs defense is just bad. They're really bad. And I think Cam Newton and those receivers will be able to come back a little bit and get a good game going this week. Should have done a punt return play. Mike Evans, he'll have a bounce back week as well. He was playing with like a flu or something. I'm not really sure what the problem was, but that team just didn't look like themselves. Mike Evans didn't do much. O.J. Howard didn't do much. Those guys are going to come back. They'll have big years. They'll have a big game. I don't know if they'll have a big game in this game. I think that Panthers defense is just pretty good. They held the Rams. They held Jared Goff in check anyway. I see this game heavily favoring the Panthers, especially at home. But for fantasy implications, continue to start O.J. Howard, continue to start Mike Evans. Next up, Sunday games. We got the Cowboys-Skins. Terry McLaurin looked great for the Redskins. I don't know if that was a one-off or if that's going to continue to be something we need to watch. Case Keenum threw for a lot of yardage in that game. Jordan Reed might make a return, and Darius Geis is out, so if you got Adrian Peterson, you got to start Adrian Peterson. As for the Cowboys, take your pick. That Cowboys offense looked fantastic. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott's back, Michael Gallup had a huge game. They threw a touchdown pass to each of their better tight ends. Like I said, take your pick. They have a great defense. They have a really good-looking offense. That's going to be a team to be messed with this year. Colts-Titans. I am in sell-high mode on T.Y. Hilton. I think that T.Y. Hilton had the best game that he could have hoped for this past week. Will he have more yardage? Will he have more catches? Yeah, absolutely. Is he going to catch 2 touchdowns every week? Definitely not. I would try to sell him high right now if you have him on fantasy. I got a fumble. Some other players, though, that have good fantasy implications. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett came out, showed what he can do. And with Devin Funchess out with an injury, I think it's Deion Kane's time. Really disappointing season last season for him. I think he comes back, and we see what he can do. Jacoby Brissett and Kane had great chemistry in the preseason, so we'll see there. As for the Titans, what a fluky game. They really walloped the Browns last week. don't think anybody saw that coming. A.J. Brown, he's going to be their number one receiver this year for sure. Derrick Henry had the game of all games. He's had a few good games in a row here, dating back to last season, but I just don't think he's going to continue to have that same level of success. He can't have that same level of success. How often are you going to see Derrick Henry take a 75-yard screen pass to the house? It's not going to happen very often. So again, Derrick Henry's a sell high guy for me this week. Seahawks are taking on the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Seahawks, wow. DK Metcalf, it is your time. If they continue to double team Tyler Lockett like they did, like the Bengals did, and the Steelers are a much better defense than the Bengals are, DK Metcalf is going to be open all day long. He is going to lead this team in yardage for sure. Chris Carson, though, that's really the storyline there. Chris Carson is the guy in Seattle. And I've been saying this. I didn't see anything from Rashad Penny at all last season. And I don't think that Rashad Penny has any value unless Chris Carson gets hurt. I mean, can you start him week to week in your fantasy lineup? Yeah, maybe in 16 or 18 or deeper team leagues as a flex. But beside that, he just doesn't have any value. As for the Steelers, wow, they got stomped. They looked terrible. Juju is dealing with some type of injury right now too. I just don't see him making. I don't see him having the season everybody thinks he's going to have. He's not an Antonio Brown replacement. Can he repeat what he did last year? Absolutely. Steelers are going to be in positive game scripts in a lot of games this year. I think they get, I think they get Connor in the backfield running a little bit more in this game. I think that the Steelers have a bounce back game. I'm picking them to win. As for fantasy relevance, I just don't know who to go with on this team. It's so difficult. Obviously, if you pick Juju, you're going to start Juju. Obviously, if you drafted Connor, you're going to start Connor. Those guys were just too high on the draft picks this year to not start them. So if you got them, start them. Bills at the Giants. Boy, if you have any of the Buffalo Bills wide receivers, or if you have Devin Singletary or Josh Allen, basically anybody fantasy relevant for the Bills, you're going to start them. The Giants are terrible. They are terrible. Their defense is terrible. And I'm sorry, Giants fans, this team is in the very, very beginning stages of rebuild mode. Hopefully, within the next 4 or 5 seasons, before Saquon gets too old, they'll have something going. But yeah, they're bad. They're really bad. So Josh Allen, full go, full start for me. I'm telling you, he's going to go off this game. Devin Singletary, he had a great game on very few actual carries. Frank Gore, I think Frank Gore needs to just retire at this point. It's Devin Singletary's backfield. Throw TJ Yeldon in the game if you need a change of pace back. Really. As for the Giants, you're starting Saquon and Evan Ingram. Those are the only guys on the team worth anything at all in fantasy, and they're both going to put up huge numbers all season. I guarantee it. So if you got them, start them. Pats at the Dolphins. Antonio Brown might play in this game. It's going to be really interesting. Personally, I'm so sick of the Patriots at this point. I am so sick of the Patriots. Really, anybody that can beat them, have at it. They've had traditionally struggles in Miami, but the Dolphins team is so bad. Last week, the Ravens just took them to school. They looked like a high school football team out there. And if you've got any Pats players, you can start any of them. They're all going to be good. As for the Dolphins, don't play them. Drop everyone. Fire sale on everybody. Honestly, Preston Williams in a Dynasty League is the only good player on their team. Jags-Texans. This one is a really rough rough call for me as far as the Jaguars go. They look like they're going to be distributing the ball to anyone and everyone that can catch. Their receivers all had pretty decent games. I think that that offense will run through Leonard Fournette, and good luck for the rest of the season without Nick Foles. Even though Minshew looked pretty good, he did have quite a few good drives in him. They're just going to have a rough time because they're in a rough division. Texans, boy, I mean, play everyone. Shoot, I mean, even Kenny Stills, with very limited amount of time on that team this week, came in, caught a touchdown pass. They threw a couple of bombs to Will Fuller. DeAndre Hopkins is back to form. Deshaun Watson obviously is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, so go with him, play him. Vikes Packers, I need to see more from both of these offenses, honestly. Their offenses both had terrible fantasy weeks, with the one exception of Dalvin Cook. If you have Cook, start him. He is going to be a viable option. Of course, that Packers defense is going to be much, much better than Atlanta's was last week. So we'll see if Dalvin Cook still can do what he does. We might get surprised and get a couple of Kirk Cousins touchdown passes this week, but I don't think that they're going to do anything more than what Dalvin Cook can give them, because if he can get off to a good start, then you know they're going to start throwing the ball. Now, the Green Bay team, Davante Adams, Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. If you have Davante Adams, you're playing him. If you have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, you're playing him. Why? Because they're going to get looks. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw it to those two guys. I still don't trust Aaron Jones. This is going to be a good Vikings defense. They're going to stop the run. Aaron Jones is a sit for me. Chargers, Lions. Boy, the Chargers, what terrible luck this year. Hunter Henry, he's got a broken bone in his leg. It is a fracture to his tibia. It's a tibial plateau fracture. That's going to sideline him for 4 to 6 weeks minimum, absolute minimum, depending on how bad the actual injury is. And Mike Williams is also dealing with something right now, so we'll see if they can get back to form. Austin Eckler blew up last week. He's going to be key going forward, so I think they limit his touches so that he can stay healthy. Lions. If you have anybody on the Lions, including Matthew Stafford, it's time for them to get play time. Matthew Stafford's going to deliver the ball all over the field. TJ Hawkinson was fantastic. I don't think he has that good of a week this week against that Chargers defense, but I'd still play him because he looked great. Kerryon Johnson's an obvious start for me. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, put him in the game. 49ers are playing the Bengals. I think the surprise of the week in week 1 was not the Titans. It was the Bengals. They put up a fight in Seattle. And that is a hard thing to do for any team. The Bengals are a terrible team with a terrible offense and a terrible offensive line. And Andy Dalton looked like an absolute stud in that game. He is leading the league in passing yards right now, which is crazy. John Ross had a hell of a game. Joe Mixon might be injured, so you're going to start Giovanni Bernard 100% of the time in a flex position if you have him. As for the 49ers, boy, take your pick. I mean, their backfield is banged up so bad. Jimmy Garoppolo looked terrible. George Kittle had a couple of touchdown passes called back. If you have Kittle, start him. He's going to be a stud all season, I guarantee it. He had his floor game of the year. That is the worst case scenario for George Kittle. He did as bad as you could expect him to do, so if you have him, start him. Cards, Ravens. That Cardinals game, boy, they looked so bad for the first 3 quarters of the game and then came out with authority in that fourth quarter and overtime. I think Larry Fitzgerald had one of his better games that he's going to have this year. I do think that Christian Kirk had one of his worst games he's going to have this year. If you have Christian Kirk in a PPR, start him 100%. He had literally his floor game this year. Kyler Murray's interesting. I don't see Kyler Murray doing very much as far as fantasy points go unless you are in a points per completion league. If you're in a quarterback league that has 4-point touchdowns and 25 yards passing scoring, Kyler Murray's a sit for me, especially against this Ravens defense. As for the Ravens, boy, take your pick. Again, this is a team where we have so many young players that I don't really know how to grade them. Mark Andrews is a for sure start if you have him. If you don't and he's available, go pick him up. Lamar Jackson, I think, has a field day with this defense. Cards are just bad on defense. And Mark Ingram, he's going to probably score another touchdown. He'll probably have another 50 to 75 yards rushing. He was not targeted in the passing game, I'm pretty sure. So, if you have these guys, those are the guys you're playing. Chiefs, Raiders. I am all about Darren Waller. I picked him up in my main redraft league, and I am expecting big, big things from that guy. He excited me to no end, and he was in on 100% of the snaps. 100% of the offensive snaps. If you got him, start him. Josh Jacobs also played incredibly well. Very surprised at his utilization. He just played really well, so got him, start him. As for the Chiefs, Chiefs, I mean, hey, Tyreek Hill's going to be out, so you got Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman is definitely a play for me in a flex position. Sammy Watkins is a must start. Take your pick in the backfield. I wouldn't play them in anything more than a flex position. If you drafted Damian Williams early, I'm sorry about that. As for the Bears-Broncos, so the Bears-Broncos is a really interesting matchup. Allen Robinson looked so ridiculous in that game. He looked so good, and that... I'm going to say it, Bears fans, and I'm really sorry to have to say this, but I'm off on Mitchell Trubisky. I was the biggest Trubisky supporter that there was up until today. I think he's going to struggle against this defense. I think Vic Fangio knows the ins and the outs of this team, and I think he schemes for them properly. He is excellent when he's got time to prepare, and he has had 2 years to prepare for this game against the Bears offense. I think this is going to be a hard struggle again for both offenses. If you have players on the defenses, I'm in an independent defensive player league in a couple leagues, so I'm going to start a ton of Bears on defense. I'm going to start a ton of the Broncos on defense. I am not starting very many of these offensive players. Courtland Sutton, David Montgomery, I think has a decent game, and I think that Allen Robinson has another good game. So if you have those players, start them. The Sunday night game is Eagles-Falcons. There's so many weapons in this game. Take your pick. I don't think Alshon Jeffrey's going to have a very good game. I think that the Falcons, will game script for Alshon, but Carson Wentz, he is my main guy right now, and I'm all in on Carson Wentz. As for the Falcons, Matt Ryan, I think, has an excellent season this year. He gets to play so many games in a dome. Julio's always a start. Calvin Ridley, I think, has a good chance. Devontae Freeman needs to go away for good. He had a terrible first game. I think he has a terrible next few. Last game of the week here as I wrap up a 28-0 victory against the Rams. Last game of the week here on Monday night is Browns-Jets. Sam Darnold sitting out. Quincy Enunwa was out for the season. Le'Veon's getting an MRI on his shoulder because he's had some nagging soreness. Listen, the only guys worth anything on that Jets team right now are Jamal Adams if you're in an independent defensive player league, and Jamison Crowder. And I just don't know without Sam Darnold in the game if Crowder is going to be I just don't know if he's going to be worth anything. He was tremendous in that first week. He had 17 targets, 14 receptions. He had more receptions than any other player in the league had targets, which is an insane stat line to think about. And then on the Browns, boy, they really had a rough game last week. Baker Mayfield might be injured. We just don't know what he's going to be able to do, if anything. The Browns have so many fantasy implication players on their team, and honestly, I just don't know what to do with them. If you got Odell, you're going to start Odell. If you got Nick Chubb, you're going to start Nick Chubb. If you got David Njoku, who was probably the best player on that team last week, you're going to start David Njoku. As for Baker, I just don't know what to make of him. I think that it's a good week for that team to just recoup, rest their players. I see the Browns absolutely stomping the Jets without Sam Darnold, without Quincy Enunwa, without potentially Le'Veon Bell. And I think the Jets take the L in this one. So that is the full slate of players for fantasy this year. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I promise more content is going to be coming. I'm going to make these videos better. I'm a brand new channel, so I'm going to get better. I promise. I'm going to get better. And I think I like this format. I like the playing Madden while I talk about this. It really limits the amount of time that I have, so I got to go fast. And I think people will like that. So please, again, like the video, subscribe, and I will see you next time.